Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This day we are going to be looking at our state universities across Cameroon, finding out how they have all helped in solving social and national issues in the nation. We briefly are going to be looking at the situation of the university lecturers who are threatening a strike action, though we are getting information that the Minister of Higher Education has reacted to the threat and is looking for ways to reach out to the lecturers to provide them with their allowances for research. We are going to be discussing on these two topics with panelists who already are in the studio. Dr. Ngwamyam is an educationist. He actually runs a university in Cameroon, also a social entrepreneur and a politician. Good evening, Doctor, and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a very exciting topic, and we are concerned about this because we have so many young people on our streets that have no jobs, and we also know that His Excellency President Paul Biya said that in 2035 we must emerge, and if we understood what emergence is, we will realize that higher education is our education as such is the backbone for emergence. If the higher education is not doing well, there will be no emergence. So if we continue the way we are going and do nothing about it, there will be no emergence. And you know, there are so many youths on our streets. They constitute a time bomb, and if we do nothing to help them, we are going to all be in trouble. What we are seeing in Bamina will spread over the whole nation.
Okay. Also with us is a Panafricanist par excellence, Professor Mark Anthony is in the house with us. Good evening and welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Leo, and to Dr. Nick, who is there with me, and to the million viewers of this beautiful channel. I think today is another day that we have been opportune to sit off at this microphone to educate you out there, and we believe that whatever we'll be discussing before the end of this evening, you would have gotten much, you would have learned a lot. So we ask that you stay connected to your screen.
Okay. We are expecting a representative of the CPDM, Dr. Simo Marcelle, who should be joining us in the minutes ahead, as well as Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. We are expecting them to join our panel for tonight. But I will start with you, Dr. Nick Ngwamyam. Our universities and job creation, how have they helped Cameroon in curbing this aspect of unemployment that is very disturbing to our national life?
For us to understand that, we have to first define the place of education in development.
Okay.
It's very important. And when we are talking about development, we are talking, you know, human development, that's capacity building. And when the capacities of people are built, then you see that reflecting in the society, in the community, in terms of job creation, in terms of wealth creation, in terms of you know, happiness as a whole, in terms of hygiene and sanitation, goods and services are available. So we go to school to have our capacities built to be able to solve all manner of problems in our communities. And we have said many times before that it is in the course of solving problems that nature pays us. Therefore, if we are poor, and if we don't have jobs, and there's violence in the community, and children are coming out of school and they cannot, you know, solve their problem, and they cannot create jobs, then there is a problem with the education they are having. If you cannot have the right education, you will not be able to solve the problems, because you can only give what you have. And therefore, if we are to ask the question, why are we poor in Cameroon? Why are we underdeveloped? Why are we so broke? Why are we where we are? The culprit, you could point fingers at the politicians, but the true culprit is the school system. And at the summit of that school system is our university systems. So we would say that there is something wrong with our education at the primary school level, the secondary school level, and the universities. And therefore, we will hold the professors responsible, because they are the ones who are supposed to be seeing that deficiency and sitting up to correct it. It's very important.
Yes, but job creation, are you saying that when we leave universities in Cameroon, it's practically impossible to get readily employed?
Now, to understand the issue of employment, we have to understand where jobs and opportunities are. Broadly speaking, you divide the country or the workforce into two: those that work in the civil service, those we call civil servants, and then those that work in the private sector. Everybody who works in the civil service is an employee. It doesn't matter if you're a minister, you are an employee. Then in the private sector, people create jobs in the private sector or create opportunities in the private sector and employ others to help them work. So you have small and medium-sized businesses, you have relatively large businesses of all sorts, you have self-employment, then you have investors and so on. So it's a whole range. And it is that private sector that actually creates opportunities, that creates wealth in the country. And as that private sector is doing what it has to do to cause her own development, they pay the taxes, and when the government is being managed very well, the government uses those taxes to build the roads, to build the hospitals, to provide the lights, to provide the water, and so on, and to provide for sanitation and hygiene. So you see a whole country moving forward when they have the right education and have people with the right mindsets to do these things. But when you send people to our school systems where they go through these grammar schools and go and sit in the universities and study by subjects and come out and beyond their subjects they can't do anything, then that is where the problem is. The problem is there.
Do you think like Dr. Ngwamyam, that the problem is training students for jobs that are non-existent? Because if I get what you're saying, if we study subjects,
yes,
the society
there are no jobs.
Necessarily not need these subjects. They want other things.
There are no jobs in subjects.
That's I think that's the same viewpoint I have. I'll begin by making us understand a lot of people feel like education is schooling. Schooling is just a means to education, one of the means to education. Education as a concept actually is derived from a Latin word educos. And that word educos actually means in English to educe, meaning to bring out from within you, implying that in every person there is something. But what needs to happen is that when you are growing up, you're supposed to be educated for it to come out. So education is supposed to be an inspiration that permits what you possess inside of you to be released. And as long as you are not inspired to bring out that thing, I will be sincere to use this word that most of our educational curriculums that are built in the world today, most of our universities in the world, are an abuse to human rights. Why I say abuse to human rights is because that educational system does not target its purpose, because education has just one purpose. Education does not have two purposes. The purpose of education is for self-realization. Once you are educated, you are supposed to realize who you are. And a man who has attained self-realization becomes very productive. So productivity is related to self-realization. But most of our schools actually train the brain and abandon what is inside the person. And as a result of that, you do not expect that when they leave schools, they should have jobs. Why? They go schooling, trying to empower their brain, their intellect, but forgetting to target the real thing, which is the person. And you know, a person is made to be in an environment. When you are placed in an environment, there are challenges that come around you. Some of those challenges are actually opportunities. But as long as you have not been educated, it becomes difficult to identify those opportunities in the challenges that you are seeing around. And that is the situation in which we find ourselves, where most of us, we go to school, because of a faulty curriculum, like I said, it is an abuse to human right. Worst of it, they fail to even understand who man is. That is a problem. Because if you understand who man is, and you know that he is placed in an environment to fit with the environment, you educate him to be able to fit in the environment and be productive in the environment. Man, per my understanding, is a psychosomatic being. When you talk of a psychosomatic being, it means that he is a complex, unified spirit, soul, body. This particular man does not, you can't actually train his brain and he becomes productive when his spirit has not been touched. You must get to the place where you empower him from
You're
inside.
talking about holistic education.
Holistic education. There is need for holistic education. The truth is that as long as education is not holistic, it will produce wrong results. It will never be able to give what the people need.
We produce clever devils.
You have spoken well. It will produce clever devils. And that means that such an education is a parasite. It is a parasite because it doesn't help the person. It makes you become a slave. You see, most people have become slaves to jobs. They are job seekers because they have been trained to see the jobs not serve. But your purpose of being educated is to know who you are. And as long as that is not a target in every institution, forget it. You will have people who they call themselves professors, they will call themselves doctors and all the light as you call. But at the end of the day, they have nothing to show for it. Example, Mr. Leo, look around our societies today, you will discover that those who are well educated are the most poorest on earth. Check very well. The most educated are the most poorest. Why are they poor? Because they have the thought that education is all about acquisition of knowledge. But it is more of self-realization. And as long as you focus on acquisition of knowledge without actually getting to focus on the real thing, you will never be able to face the challenges that come along with you in the society. You will never be able to produce anything. And that is where we find ourselves. In a society where we have been able to go through school, but school does not go through us. We have been able to get all the information we can, but we do not learn the real thing. And that is who we are. And so that is where we have a problem, Mr. Leo, and that's why you see our society the way it is today.
But now, let us understand, what is a university, Dr. Nick? Maybe some persons just think that it's a center where you acquire... Yes. What's a university?
What is a university? That's a very nice question. But before we go to the university, Professor Anthony was saying something about man. Man is a complex being. Can I just take time to explain to us so we discover who we are?
Okay.
Who is man? Once you understand who man is, then you'll be able to know what you are doing at any time.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we work on principles. Now, man has three parts. Man is made of the body that you see. If Dr. Ngwamyam falls and dies, there's a body that is still lying there. So man has that body. And when I die, something leaves my body and goes. It's the soul. So that body, when I'm alive, that body reacts with the environment through the five senses. And we all know the five senses we have: the taste, the smell, the sight, the hearing, and then the touch. And the eyes are responsible for 80% of the stimuli coming from the environment. So that's why we always have to be very observant in an environment. The eyes do a lot of that. And the eyes are also responsible for 80% of our sins. So then the ears are responsible for 10%. That's why when a teacher is teaching in class, it's very important that you are illustrative, like using PowerPoint and so on, because the eyes will capture 80% of that. But if you are just dictating things, they are using 10% of their faculties. Now, that is the body. Then we have the soul. The soul is that hub that really controls who we are. The soul does three things, or it has three components. The soul has got your mind. The soul has got willpower. That's where the willpower is exercised. And the soul has emotions. It works on emotions. These three things: mind, willpower, and emotions. And when we talk of emotions, there are 5 strong emotions. And amongst the 5 strong emotions, 2 of them are positive. 2 of the emotions are positive. And 3 are not. 3 are negative. The 2 positive emotions are emotions of love and faith. And then the negative ones are this anger. There is fear, and I think the other one might be jealousy. That is that for the emotions. And we have to learn to work with 2 emotions. You have to learn to develop the emotion of love and the emotions of faith. You would see that people who are always angry and are jealous can never grow. But people who are always loving and have faith in their God, they tend to grow. Now, the mind, what is the mind? The mind is where we process a lot of our stuff. The mind is the hard drive, or the soul is actually the hard drive inside the human being. And the mind is the one that uses the intellect to process our stuff. And that mind, the mind is it's not the mind, it's actually the soul taken together. The soul taken together can be described as a very wild horse. You know, when you have a young stallion that has not yet been trained, it runs wild on the hills, and you have to catch that horse, train it and break it and give it character so that it begins to do what you want. So the human being is like that. That's why when you don't train your children, or we don't train people properly, they are wild. They're not very different from wild horses, because the mind has not been trained. And you will see that we go to nursery school, primary school, secondary school, universities to train the mind. It's very important. If that mind is not properly trained, we will not achieve very much. Then you have that willpower. I will not spend a lot of time explaining willpower, but the most important thing that I want to explain now is the third part. We said that man is a spiritual being and man has got a spirit. But the spirit that the spirit that belongs to man, you would say, is the soul. But there's a spirit that comes to dwell inside man and to control man. So you are controlled by one of 2 spirits, whether you like it or you don't like it. You are either controlled by the spirit of the devil, or you are controlled by the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God. And that spirit is the one that dictates to your soul, to be able to make right or wrong decisions. And therefore, when you are hooked up to the Spirit of God, you are hooked up to the right energy. And the Spirit of God helps you in 3 ways. Number 1, it gives you the power of intuition. Intuition means you are able to know things that nobody even told you. The power of intuition. And that power of intuition, it drives your creativity. Then you have the power of communion with God, and communion with the community. Then you have the power of conscience. It's very important. But when you are hooked up to the devil, you don't have much of intuition. The devil can show you things, but there are things that will put you in a ditch. And so we need to understand, man. Once we understand this, then you will understand why it's always important to be positive, to have a positive mindset. You will understand why it's important that you should not be afraid. And the only way you can stop from being afraid is to be with your God and to trust Him and to surrender. It's very, very important what I'm saying, because that lays the foundation for many youths and many of us to grow. If you don't have that foundation, you are lost.
Okay, but do you see this from the prism of our universities?
Now you asked me a question. What is a university? A university is that place that we go to learn. It's a higher level of, and education is just a continuous process. We start and then we grow, okay? And the university is supposed to be the highest level of that structured education. And once you have gone there and then they give you the kind of degrees, they give you a diploma, a first degree, a master's or a PhD, whatever. The PhD is called a terminal degree. But we have to realize that the university is just part of a journey. And this is something we have to know. Once you have finished from university, it doesn't matter what degree you have, realize that the university continues, or university education per se, continues in the community while you are working or whatever. You have to continue to teach yourself, read books, do many things. Don't always expect that university means you go and stand in class or sit in class and a teacher teaches you. And that is something we've got to realize, because it is when you actually leave the university bench and you are in the community that you even learn a lot of things about life that would help you. But most of us depend on what we were taught in school, and that is not good enough, and we fail to continue to train ourselves. And in a university, two things happen, or three. You are given theoretical knowledge, then you are given practical skills, and then of course you are taught the soft skills. And amongst everything that you do, your character is very important. Your character is fashioned. But of course, you don't fashion your character in university. It's a continuum. It's a continuum from primary school and everything. And it's expected that when you go to that level, you should be polished. That's what it is. And once you are going to be in a university setting where character is not an issue, where nobody looks at character, where there are no practicals, where you are just giving some theory about some abstract things, then you never develop that internal thing that Mark was referring to. You have to be able to discover yourself. When you discover yourself, that's when the creativity comes in. But when you are forced to just study some subjects which more often than not are not related to your to what God put inside you, you become lost. And this one becomes very, very clear when you read that particular book, Why A Students Work for C Students and B Students Work for the Government, where Robert Kiyosaki actually explains these things to us very well. And we are going to encourage everybody to read those books, because even in America, Robert Kiyosaki, what he is talking about, a lot of people have also just gone to these systems and have studied subjects and so on, and they don't even understand. That's why in one of his books he's talking of rich dad, poor dad. It's a mindset, and it is that mindset that we want to bring to you this evening.
Okay, it is that mindset we want to bring to our televiewers this evening. This one says, more grace to the team. We are sitting right on watching. Thank you. You're writing from Bonaberry, St. Derek. We're glad to know that. Good evening. I've learned a lot about who a man is from Dr. Nick. I'm edified. It's Binui, writing from Ngwa. Good evening to you, Binui. Good evening to you in the studio. The universities in Cameroon are focused on providing job seekers instead of equipping the students with skills that can be used to develop their communities. How do you explain our higher institutes train engineers, and within the same university, foreigners are brought to build a lab? This is proof that the ministers and rectors don't trust in the credibility of the training efforts. A lot still has to be done, even from our primary school level. Bolam Conrad is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Conrad. Good evening, Mr. Liu. This is Justice Longang from Edea. The educational system prepares the children for a future that does not exist or is yet to exist. Our educational system teaches mental intelligence and not financial intelligence, which is the backbone of growth. The system teaches us to work for money instead of having money work for us. Okay. Good evening to you all. I am Benali in Kumbai. Just to first of all greet you all. I'm coming back with my question. Okay, we're waiting for your question. Now, the universities, I asked a question to Doctor, what a university is. We're not also supposed to analyze the trend of our society or the global economy and then fashion ourselves to meet the demands of the time and What has changed in our education, in our university settings from 20, 30 years ago to what obtains today? Has anything changed?
I love that particular question. And I would say, when we talk of a university, primarily, a university is a center of learning that is believed to have universal knowledge, implying that if you come to a university, you can get knowledge on everything. But knowledge of everything does not build the society. And you ask a question concerning the educational system that was 30 years ago. Has it changed now? I'll be sincere in saying that there is no change so far. Nothing has changed. Though you hear they will come today and tell you that there is we are now going to be BM what D. We are going to this LMD, yeah, LMD. So they give you those beautiful names without any substance behind it, and that is where we have a problem. Apart from that, we like actually borrowing things which we do not even understand, and when we borrow terminologies, we do not borrow the content, and that's where we have a problem. So what makes the educational system of Cameroon and maybe many other African nations not valuable is the fact that it spends time learning things that do not have effect on people's daily lives. And as long as people focus on learning things that do not have effect on their daily lives, we don't expect any results. And so it has taken years for me as an individual to understand that most of the time I spent in school was practically useless.
You can say
Let me not just use the word useless, because at least I've learned something. I've learned how to process information. But when it comes to job creation, when it comes to wealth creation, I found myself wanting. I was in the midst of nowhere, like I was in an ocean without a path to take. And so it is personal education. Let me use that now. That's why I said earlier that schooling is just a means to education.
Yeah, but if I get what you are trying to say is that, okay, you went to school and you discovered that you needed to go away from what you were taught to find your way.
That is
my question stands that are we as a university, the centers of excellence, not supposed to look at the trend of the demands of the world and then also fashion our training to meet? At least we are creating people to meet
that is supposed to be what our educational centers are supposed to be doing. Our universities are supposed to actually study the community, follow the trends, analyze issues, then create solutions. Because I will be sincere in telling you this: if every subject that you learn in school is a particular problem that is being solved, or let's say it's a problem that we identify in the society, and then we come to school, we say, okay, let's look for a solution to this problem. At the end of the day, we'll create job providers, we'll create individuals who are problem solvers. But since our educational systems are actually there just for the, like I said, to impact knowledge, which is even obsolete in relation to people's daily lives, we keep on teaching the same thing year in, year out. Year in, year out. We go bring theoretical concepts which do not actually fit with the practical events around. And when we teach that, you don't expect a student to leave the classroom and be able to solve that particular problem that he was facing in the society. And that is where we are, where we want our heads to be packed filled with information. We go to school because we think that maybe that's a place where we transform. And you know, there is this lifelong counsel that we have been given. You need to go to school, you need to learn well so that you have the best grades, and when you have the best grades, you come out, you seek for jobs. First, that is a problem. The target is job.
Yes.
And so they train people, these universities train people with a target of getting a job, not to create jobs.
Which is not bad. The problem is, what are the job requirements today? Do we train people to meet the requirements for the jobs that are available today?
That's the problem.
Okay.
The way the universities are crafted, they don't even look at jobs. Because even if the universities were to do the minimum, look at the job market,
the global job market, yes,
and begin to say, okay, let's train children who can solve this problem, we will not even be where we are. But they don't even look at it. So they are researching. I don't know what they are researching. They just keep on. The person who is teaching history is just teaching history and going. The one teaching philosophy is just teaching philosophy and going. You get the point. And the teacher who is teaching English or literature does not even teach English and literature in a practical way where his students can write novels. You see people living with master's degree but no novel. They cannot even write an article in a newspaper. So it's a huge problem. That is it. And this is how, if you Google search, tap jobs in America, a list of about 650 jobs will come. But the question, in all sectors, and that's not even all. But in Cameroon, what we expose to our children to as jobs is just on our fingertips, and that's not it. People will start with ENAM, custom, a gendarme, medical doctor, engineer, or something like that, teacher, and it's over. It's over. So we really have a problem. And you see, if you know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have in that triangle or pyramid, you have 5 levels of needs. Then out of that pyramid, you have the transcendental phase, which is the highest level. But the Maslow's hierarchy of needs teaches us that at the lowest layer, we have the physiological needs, which are food, water, air, and I will just add health to that. I don't know whether I should put health there or I should put it in safety and security, which is the second level, and sleep. So then when you go to the second level, you are talking of safety, you are talking of security, you are talking of housing, you are talking of jobs and so on. So if you stay only at this level, you have to, how many of our children are trained in providing food? How many of them are trained in providing water, in providing air, keeping the environment clean, in our health and so on? How many of them are trained just to meet the basic needs of the community? That is a problem. Then you go to safety and security. How many of them are trained to build houses for us, to make our roads safe? All those things. If we stayed only at this level of safety, security, food, water, air, and health, we can create a lot of jobs by training the children. And when you say creating jobs, the jobs are in the heads of the children. It's not like you teach the children in a university or setting or whatever, and then when they come, they line up and you give them jobs. You teach them in a way that they know how to solve problems. Once they come out, they go into the community and do one of two things. In the first part of their lives, they go out and seek a job in an established system. In that established system, they work to hone in their skills and get more refined at what they are doing. In the second part, they leave that institution and they also earn some money on which they survive and save something. Then when they have been there for 4 or 5 years, they actually know how systems work, and then they come out from there and go and create their own system. And they will use the money that they earned to jumpstart it. And then they will borrow money from the family or from the Njangi and put it in. And at that time when they are borrowing money from the Njangi, people say, oh, that boy John, we have been seeing him. He's been working in the carpentry workshop. He's a very good boy, very responsible. And then the community, the society will give you the money. So the first thing that we need is to train our children to have these capacities to solve the problems. So technically, these are the 3 things that we said last time. Number 1, the problems of Cameroonians and Africa is we don't understand problems. So when you go to a university setting, that university setting or school setting should teach you to understand problems. Number two, we don't know how to solve problems. So the university should teach you how to solve problems. It is in the course of understanding and solving problems that you create wealth. It's as simple as that. And we have said before that the problems of Africa, I always called it the I squared, I times I. The biggest problem of Africa and Cameroon is number one, ignorance. Number two, irresponsibility. So when we train our children very well, we cure them of these two diseases and they become very productive. In a nutshell, that's what we want our people to do.
Now, our universities are structured in faculties, according to faculties and departments, but we have different societal issues plaguing our respective communities. It is true, the councils exist to provide solutions to some of these societal problems, but have we seen our university departments coming out to tell the councils that, oh, I will assist technically in solving this issue? We are in Douala, we are in Yaoundé, we are in Gaoundéré, we are in Boya, we are in Bamenda. Have we seen this?
Let me just give you see, you have said that the councils are there to solve problems, and the university should come to the council to ask, but let's go back again. The council is part of the government. The council is not there to solve problems. I mean, the council doesn't solve the problems. The mayor can say, I want to build a road. Are you getting me? But it's not the mayor who builds the road. It is that person. The university is supposed to train that person who builds the road. Am I answering your question? The council does not provide the water solutions. It provides the financing and the management and so on. But it is our technicians and our engineers that we have trained that would do the surveys and so on, and lay the pipes and bring the water and connect to the homes and treat the water and so on. So it is that technician. The university is supposed to train that technician, the worker who does the job.
Yeah, but when we look at our major infrastructures that are constructed in Cameroon, we notice very clearly that most of these giant projects are done by expatriates. Our universities have been existing for so long now. Are we saying that we have not been able to train persons enough who can handle our own projects so that we keep the monies that are spent in bringing in these foreign companies back here at home?
Leo, the first thing I will say is that most of what we have as educational curriculums in Africa too, and precisely in Cameroon, which we intend to raise some of these engineers with, are borrowed curriculums which have no practical base. And so most of the times when we use these particular curriculums in raising this,
do they really not have any practical base, or they have limited practical base?
Well, you see, I want to ask you the question too. Do you really think we have a practical base? How many have you seen? When I say we have practically,
I went to the University of Boya. I did a professional program, journalism and mass communication. I was not trained anywhere else. It is true. I've had yes, it's true.
Okay, the intent of training you in the university is not just to be a journalist. I'm certain about that. It's not just to be a journalist. You are supposed to be more than just a journalist. You are in the purpose of being a journalist, and I don't think that's the purpose of your life, just to be talking over the TV. There's more to being a journalist.
Yes, but I'm doing more.
Okay, so the issue is, you asked me of roads, and I wanted to target that. When we go to our universities, we raise engineers. We have people whom we call engineers. We have even agricultural engineers. But when it comes to doing the job on the ground, they seems to be missing in the field. And so even those who train them, those whom we have sitting in offices whom actually validate this particular curriculum, go seeking for experts from outside. Why? Because evidence has shown that most of those who come out of these universities do not have that capacity, because the issue here is capacity building. They do not have the capacity to be able to sustain or to carry on that particular project.
To build Olembe and Japuma.
It becomes difficult for them to build. You can take some roads that they have given most of our technicians who are from Cameroon to build around, and you will see the difference. I would not want to just say maybe it's because the educational system is bad, but I want to go back to say the people have been trained on things that do not fit the time.
Okay.
They have been given archaic, obsolete information, which was meant for might be the 20th century or even the 19th century. And once you give them that, they are faced with the 21st century. You can't come to the 21st century and you train a military person and give him weapons of the 18th century. He will not be able to fight. You gave him obsolete information. You gave him obsolete weapons. And so the problem is we have obsolete data which we insect into the hard drive of these graduates. And when they come out, they can only give what you gave them, because a man can't give more than what you have given the person. And that is the situation which we have in our various nations in Africa. And if Africans have to go beyond, I always make this statement, Mr. Leo, that the problem with Africa is we are struggling to import industrialization. But you can't import what you are not used to and make good use of it. We should be able to come up with indigenous knowledge. We should come up with practical ideas that we implement from our own position. Doctor asks a question concerning agriculture. We do not train those who provide food. But we have in the University of Boya here, I think even in Douala here, Bamenda, we are in Chang, we have engineers that are produced every year, agronomists, agricultural engineers that are produced every year. The question, how many of them have been able to stop the importation of food? We have lands, vast lands everywhere, but we do not have farmers. Let me know, you know, when you use the word farmers, they are afraid. We do not have agricultural engineers, because that's what they have been told, that they are agricultural engineers. But when they come out, they are unable to have a farm. Why? That is to make you understand that they have been taken off balance.
Okay.
So the education, I cited that situation earlier, that man is a psychosomatic complex being, because I wanted to show something. You are supposed to educate a man to be balanced. Until that balance is attained, there's no productivity.
Okay, there's no productivity. Who we are is all about mindset. Pilo is writing from K-Town. I love the program. Good evening to you, Pilo. We love you too. Good evening. Mr. Leo Assad writing from Yaoundé. The topic of yesterday and today are the kind of programs that Cameroonian youth need. It will reduce the tension of youths getting a job and also divert their attention from waiting from the government to give them jobs. Okay. Good evening to all in the studio. So Divine Chair from Faculty of Education, University of Bamenda. My own suggestion, if Cameroonian universities can implement and promote STEM education, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, with this knowledge, each state university before graduation, students will be able to produce or help solve national and local issues. Okay. Good evening. Mr. Leo, great Dr. Nick. For me, is a great man. Cameroon should have free education. Many Cameroonians are illiterate. Chin Clinton Ekanyo Bernu, writing from Douala. Christian Chair, greetings to you people in the studio. Mr. Leo, I just want to appreciate this intelligent panelists. Okay, Christian Chair is writing from Bomenda. Some selected universities in Cameroon have distinguished themselves from others, especially our entrepreneurial university, that is Panafricanist Higher Institute of Health Sciences in Tico, that trains medical personnel to be self-employed. That has at least reduced the rate of unemployment in Tico community and Cameroon in general. Marcelle, a proud student of Panafricanist. Good evening to you, the proprietor of Panafricanist. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I must confess that this is the best TV program in the country. You are a nation builder. Keep it up. Miriam is writing from Douala. Thank you very much, Miriam. Mr. Liu, yesterday you hear illiteracy is the problem in Africa, but today degree holders are in the streets while those without the education are employed. Is education a problem today? I am Etaka Peter, writing from AU Mojok. Good evening to you, Etaka Peter. That one does not concern what we are discussing. Doctor,
he asked a question whether education is a problem. Let me go to be the answer. I wanted to say that from the very beginning we began by saying education is not schooling. Education is more than schooling. And the true purpose of education is to bring out of you what you possess, not that you should be trained in your head.
Okay.
And to say this and learn on something, I have a young man. While we were going to school, he's at almost the last of our house. While we were busy going to school, after he left primary school, he said he's not going to school, he wants to learn a trade. Today he's a young millionaire that most of us have not even been able to attain the state of his finance. He's going to do this aluminum and glass. Today he is big. What is the difference? He went for what he thought could give him what he needs. He wants to learn how to create jobs. He has young people working with him right now whom he is training. And he has his money.
And that is part of the education.
That is part of education.
Yes,
that's what I'm just trying to say.
Before you ask me a question, let me follow up on something that that went between you and Mark over here, where he asked you. You said you had gone to Boya and studied journalism, and Mark brought it to your attention that though you studied journalism, you are not caged in that journalism box, and there's more to it. And this is something I want to explain because it's a very, very important concept for us to understand. If we don't understand that concept, we'll be prisoners going through this earth.
Slaves.
Listen, I am a medical doctor, but my wife helped me a lot many years ago because we would be together. Someone would say, "Who are you?" I'm Dr. Ngwamyam. I'm Dr. Ngwamyam. I'm Dr. Ngwamyam. And my wife says, "Shut up! This is Dr. Ngwamyam. Dr. Ngwamyam. Shut up!" You know, and he said, You are not Dr. Ngwamyam, you are more than Dr. Ngwamyam. Because when you keep saying, I am Dr. Ngwamyam, I am this, you are boxing yourself. It's a psychological thing. You are putting yourself in a box. I am a judge, I am a journalist, I am a teacher, I am a priest, I am a reverend sister. Don't box yourself. When you go to university, you know, you learn a couple of things, fine, you learn something in an area. But the truth is, okay, I learned to be a medical doctor, but what I learned, and I'm a medical doctor, is just 20% of the capacities that God put in me. So when you keep limiting yourself like that, 80% of your capacities are not put to use. And that's why you have to learn to multitask, learn to come out of your box. So when you are a medical doctor, fine. When people have health issues, they will come to you as a specialist in that area. You solve their health issues. But don't die in that box. Grow out of that box. Once you can learn to grow out of that box, a lot will happen to you.
Okay, a lot will happen to you. Let's look at the history of Cameroon. We are faced with very serious issues of our history. Some people say the history about the Fumban conference is not too clear. Some people say the history of the plebiscite is not too clear. Some people say lots and lots of theories. Have we found a veritable solution to that from our universities? Wasn't it also important for our universities to come together and say, this is the history of Cameroon, let's set this record straight?
If you're going to ask our universities for the history of Cameroon, you'll never get it. Because many of the people in the universities are politicians. And they tell the story the way that we put money and opportunities in their pockets. So whoever you are asking, so take 50 university professors who are historians and ask them the story. Take them from different backgrounds and different political. They will give you 50 different stories based on what they will not give you because it is the truth, but they give you based on what they want to get. And technically, if Cameroon is having problems today and there's this fighting and so on, it's true that the history could have been this way or that way, but President Paul Biya laid all of that to rest when he spoke at the Paris conference, so we should not even be arguing about 1961. He said it all. He made his confession. So we should not hold him to task. If we cannot fix the problem,
is the President of the Republic
the history,
the historian of Cameroon?
Yeah, because he was there when the history was being created, and then he was telling us what happened. The bottom line is he has not. And when he went to Boya during the 50th anniversary, he still said it. And he was saying the state of West Cameroon, all those. He said those things, but it is the politics now that is refusing to accept the truth. Are you getting what I'm saying?
You say politicians are trying to play over intellectuals. That is, the university don't. But now you are now wanting to give credibility to a politician who is the President of the Republic.
No. When you say politician, it doesn't mean that you don't have people in there who are honest. And you could be a politician doing this yesterday, but today you do this. I mean, I'm not the one saying it. His Excellency President Paul Biya has been there all this while. And when he went to the Paris peace talks with Mo Ibrahim, nobody forced him to say what he had to say. He had his written script, which had things that it was not supposed to go out of that script. But for some odd reason, God made it in such a way he didn't read from the script. He spoke, so he spoke from the spirit. He had intuition knowledge, so he spoke the truth. And he confessed that actually these Anglophones like this, we should give them breathing space. We were trying to squeeze them, but it has not worked. So we should give them breathing space, and that's the most important thing we should do. We should look at what we do to give Anglophones the breathing space, yet there is this unity and peace in the country. But just like we explained on another program, we have politics over here, and then we have economics over here. Economics is about goods and services and creating wealth and opportunities and so on. There's nothing you can do with Afenkap Afetres. No. So, and then you have the development here. It's like a wheel. The education spins around.
Doctor, you went to the University of Yaoundé?
Yes, I went to QS.
No, you studied in the University of Yaoundé, I'm sure, decades back.
Yes, I went to QS in 1977 and I left in 1983.
Okay, almost 40 years ago. Yeah. Now, if universities haven't existed in Cameroon 40 years after, and there are major projects to be realized in the country, and the government does not go for those they have trained as doctors, as this and this, and will prefer expatriates, is it to say that the government itself is not too confident of those they have trained in these centers of excellence?
Okay, thanks for that question. Actually, we've had, I think the University of Yaoundé was created in 1960, if I'm not mistaken. And by the time I was entering QS in 1977, I think I was the 9th batch. Okay, but when you ask this question, we are supposed to have trained our own youth to solve our own problems. What you're saying is 60 years, since 1960 till today, we don't have enough people to solve our problems. So that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And it's very evident in the fact that, the Chinese will come and build the Palais de Congrès for us. Then 30 years afterwards, they are the ones to come and change the ceiling, change the bulbs, and paint and change the broken toilets. It's a very bad indicator. You see, like we said on this set. You see, the Bafoussam Yaoundé road, that road was built in 1985, and it was built by foreign contractors. And in the course of building that road, there were some difficulties, so they had to do the difficulties, build the Sananga bridge, the bridge on the river Sananga, then go through some hills, though not many hills, because the real hills are the ones at Chang. But the bottom line is they had a good road there. And so many years afterwards, that road needs to be repaired. They had, where they had the gutters, they put the metallic things. So those metallic things have decayed now. And those metallic things had to be changed, and the road has to be resurfaced, and there has to be some cleaning around. Those are things that our youths could have done. But we have not trained our youth to do it, and even the few who could do it, we didn't give them the jobs. Then we go and call Chinese and South Koreans to come and be doing simple jobs that our own youth could have done. That is really an aberration, and that's what we are talking about. We cannot keep on teaching children in the university. I don't know what we are teaching them. And then little things, we cannot do them. Like I said before, let us take the road that goes from Chang down Sancho Hill and then into that Chang Hill and then into the Sancho. Well, we could say that probably coming down that Chang Hill is a little bit tricky. Then you will want to call, let's say, some Chinese who are experts at that to come and help us go down that. But once they have gone down to Sancho, please give it to our kids. And then, when they are building the Sancho Hill, you don't just leave Chinese to be building the Sancho Hill. No, put your own children, let them be watching what those Chinese are doing. So that the next Sancho Hill comes from anywhere or whatever, your own children do it. You cannot keep your own children locked up in the house and you want to emerge in 2035. Oh, by the way, what is emergence? Emergence, when the President Paul Biya says we've got to emerge in 2035, which is just 14 years down the road, what he means is that by the time we get to 2035, almost all our problems in the country should be solved by Cameroonian youths. That these Cameroonian youths should be able to generate a lot of wealth, and we should stop importing stupid things into the country. And that by that time we should also be exporting. And that by that time we should have the best airlines, the best shipping lines, the best train stations that are built, that are run by our own youths, with the airports built by our own youths, with hospitals that are doing great, with the greatest surgeons and greatest everything. With our food industry, we are growing our own rice, growing our own fish, canning the fish and so on, and exporting to Gabon. That's what he means. But the way we are going, come 2035, we'll still be importing toothpicks.
Okay.
So the university, that's where the university is not. The university is sleeping.
Okay. Let me take a few messages. I want to thank you people and say keep on. Hello sir, good evening to everybody. Just keep on. Thank you very much. Emmanuel from Ngwamyam says, sir, coming to history, Cameroonians had industries before the coming of the whites like Kum, but why should the man on your left say industrialization was imported? Okay, Emmanuel from Ngwamyam. Good evening to you all in the studio.
Yes,
good evening to the panel. Greetings to Dr. Nick Conan Israel, writing from Du Baptiste Heart Center. Good evening to you, Mr. Conan. Good evening to all in the studio. I am D4 from Bamenda. Mr. D4, good evening to you. We will only solve national and local issues if Cameroonian universities learn to produce their own curriculum rather than depend on curriculum from colonial masters. My regards to your wonderful panel. Thank you very much. For our universities to fit well, they should identify societal problems and train students on how to solve them. Emmanuel is writing from Alakuma in Bamenda for our universities. Okay, could we review topic to read? How much have Cameroonian universities? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all the panelists. I'm very happy we are finally realizing our education system is not the best. Even then, ball pens we are using to write in Cameroon are imported. Good evening to the resourceful panelists. Our universities were created to meet political needs rather than developing our minds. We are still to understand that the mind of education is the education of the mind. Until we must have learned this, then our university systems will not cease to be problematic. Tiku Awang Ivo, writing from Akuhmbom, Good evening, sir. I'm Christian George from Yaoundé. The universities in Cameroon train people to have just certificates and being empty and unable to apply this knowledge to our daily lives and needs of our countries. Now, can our university centers today boast to be those reference centers where the government is it finds itself at a fix and then says, let me run to this education center for innovative ideas? For example, we saw Cameroon is still faced with COVID-19. Our universities leading in research, innovations, and way out, even in the respective communities.
Mr. Liu asked that question and I'm laughing because I'm trying to imagine how somebody who heads the research ministry came up during the fight of recovery, this COVID-19 stuff, and I remember she said people need to go to Fimba Grass, something like that. So those are the same people whom our universities are depending on. And a minister once made mention of 32 gig equal to 500 gigabyte. So when you hear those things, you realize that there's something. I'm mentioning that because I want to take something. Those particular laptops that were imported from China to Cameroon and given the students at a very, very exorbitant sum, which if that money was used, those young students, technology students in the university, in fact, they bring this technology and give them to build those things here, they would have done more and it would have helped Cameroon. But look, they did not import the technology. They went and imported the laptop. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, Cameroonians do not even know how to make a calculator. So that institution, these universities, cannot be reference universities for any government because they know themselves that those places can never be reference. In fact, Emmanuel is never. At this moment, they are not reference institutions. Okay, we have a lot of politicians in Cameroon. When they are sick, they do not trust the doctors whom our institutions have trained. They fly themselves and their children
Is that not for specific cases?
No, I will not say specific cases because you can't actually name some of the ministers or politicians that you know in Cameroon who have been able to lie in our hospitals in Cameroon. The institutions did not train the best. Why? I mentioned the reason earlier. You can't be training a soldier to fight a war in the 21st century and equipping him with the 19th century knowledge and weapons. That is going out of order. So they have given them knowledge, yes, but this knowledge is obsolete. It's not up to standard. Mm-hmm. It is not knowledge that can make somebody a reference. And so we face this problem and we will keep facing it unless we go back, like I said earlier, with somebody, there's one listener was listening, did not understand what I said, because she said I said they imported technology. No. We have this mindset in Cameroon and in Africa that if we must have the best, we must import it from Europe. Mm-hmm. But we need indigenous knowledge.
Okay.
And that had been in existence in Africa before even the white man came here. And if we want to make a difference, there is, I think there is an article that I wrote on holistic education and the African ancient educational system, where I was trying to show that in Africa before, because some people say the white man came with education to Africa. No. Rather, the lens from Africa. Education, I will still repeat it, is not schooling alone.
Okay.
And when they came, they met the people with in fact, a system of education that was very productive.
Okay.
Because it was focused on self-realization, Mr. Liu. Mm-hmm. where the people were raised to become who they believe they are. And you know, the greatest science on earth is self-knowing. When you know who you are, you have attained the highest level of sciences. That is when you will be able to look at a problem like this and say, this is how to handle it. Because you will be speaking from inside. In relation to the situation which you face.
Okay.
Not speaking from your head.
Okay. Cameroon universities have not been able to deliver, particularly in the areas of technology, theory, and practicals, and are supposed to flow together. Yet they dish out a lot of theory to students who would finally not be able to deliver to the nation in terms of practicals. I call these graduates engineers of known confidence. It's disgraceful that we graduate thousands of engineers each year, and we still find pleasure in dishing out contracts to foreign engineer, civil engineering. Greetings to you all in the studio. Good evening to you too. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. I hope the powers that be are listening and following a program. God love, writing from Bamenda. Mr. Liu, thank you, and those in the studio. It's a wonderful topic you put in today, and I think this is Africans' problem. My father was a wine distiller. Could I not go to the university and come back to improve my father's line of industry? Dr. Nick, I'm happy you are talking about this. Are you saying there are no intellectuals in Cameroon? For I grew up to intellectuals are illuminaries and projectors. Is Itaka Peter writing from stop the calls, please. Itaka Peter is writing from a Umojok. Hello, I don't agree with the analysis on the platform today. Our problem is not educational system. We don't have where to apply our knowledge. Plus, we don't have access to financing. The problem is the government and not the universities. From tax expert from Tico. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Wisani Zekamilif, writing from Kumbu. The program is super. Keep up with the good programs, not forgetting those in the studio. They are bringing real facts. I'm loving it. Thank you too. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and greetings to the panel. I'm following your program from Kumba. The government is guilty of the poor output of the educational system. That is why they are skeptical to award contracts to its own professionals. Societal-oriented education is the best way out. Alfred, writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu. No matter how we talk about issues concerning our country, if this regime is in place, it will not work. Chin Chili Abigail Binui, writing from Douala. Okay. Cameroon universities need more of professionalism than otherwise. I'm sure Dr. Nick can better analyze that. Dr. Nick are the kind of persons we need in this country. He's a mind setter and a nation builder. Atabe Lenz, writing from Suza. Good evening to you, Atabe. Good evening, Mr. Liu and crew. When a country wants to shadow the future of people, she will train more of teachers and nursing aid students. Okay, please let us help to advance better, like Dr. Nick, not only speaking but helping the nation to grow. Felix Egbe, writing from the United Arab Emirates. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love your program, so empowering, a perfect combination to refill our empty minds, though we countless useless certificates. Abraham Ekukole, writing from Bonaberry. Terence, writing from Mutengene. Good evening to you all in the studio. Our educational system is really bad for a country striving to emerge, because many of us become a problem to the society instead of solving problems. Okay, now Dr. Nick, Cameroon is planning to emerge by 2035. Certainly goals have been set. We already know what the nation will require to sustain the goals, if at all we attain them. Has anything changed in the setting of our university structures to be able to raise those who are going to run an emerging economy?
Thank you very much. That's the purpose of this program tonight. I want our listeners just keep this question in mind. You might have to refresh it. Let me go back to some two issues that were raised when you were reading those points that were coming in. There's somebody who said something about an intellectual. An intellectual is not somebody who has gone to a university and has a master's or a PhD. The way we call it intellectual. You can have your grandma in the village who is an intellectual. An intellectual is somebody who uses the wisdom that they have got, the totality of the wisdom, to solve the problems at their level. Use the wisdom to solve the problems at your level effectively and efficiently, while keeping in mind the common good. That is the intellectual. So when we talk about intellectual, we talk about a complete person, not someone who goes to the university and crams and gets a first degree or second degree and sitting in a bar and drinking and making noise. That's not an intellectual. So let's get that straight. Now, there was somebody who wrote from Chico. He's a tax expert. And he was giving, in fact, the man from Tico, it's unfortunate. He has a mindset, that's the mindset that we are trying to correct, because he has got a wrong mindset. And especially many of them who have gone to Enam and come back, they have a wrong mindset about things. And don't forget that he's also not aware that in wealth creation, or how do you make money, you have these four groups. You have the employee. You can make money as an employee, where somebody employs and pays you, be it the government or somebody in the private sector. And this tax inspector is a good example of an employee who depends on a government salary. Or you can be self-employed, or you create a business which is a money-making machine, which can employ from about 50 probably to 1,000 people, or you come up with an investment. You know, the last two, creating a business or an investment, they are real money-making machines. And like we said before, when you are self-employed, you have to put in all your hours and energy. You know, when you are turning the machine, the money comes out. If you are sick and you are not there, the money stops flowing. That's the difficulty with self-employment. But amongst all these four groups, the poorest is an employee. The employer is, an employee is only one check away from poverty. And we are encouraging people, though Cameroonians and everybody is looking for jobs, we are encouraging people to migrate from a job mentality to self-employment and to business mentality. That's where the issues are. And you could sit here, you could be blaming the government from morning till evening. Don't do that. If you keep looking for somebody to blame, you're never going to rise up from your bed, because at the end of the day, I will prove to you that most of the problems are with you and not with anybody out there. It's not with the government, it's not with your auntie, it's not with the witchcraft. The problem is with you. Your thinking needs to be sharpened, and you need to build your skills. I just wanted to correct those two things. Then you're back to our question. Yeah. The question was about emergence in 2035. Just refresh me, please. Yes,
Cameroon wants to emerge by 2035.
Yeah.
Have we restructured our universities to be able to form those that are going to be capable of running an emerging nation? Has anything changed at all to show that this is the new path the country is moving towards?
No, they have not done anything to do that. And I said that we have only 14 years to go. And if we were to restructure now, imagine trying to train people. We'll need about 5 years to train people to come to speed, so that they can be able to make things happen. So in 10 years, we're not going to cover much ground. That's why it's a wake-up call now, and it's an emergency. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. You know, there is I think there is a document that government has written, some sectoral development or something. I tried to read through that document, and I was so disappointed with it. When you take time off, when you are an entrepreneur, and you read that document, you see a lot of loopholes in it. The document was written by civil servants, employees, or they gave it as a contract to some white people to vote to write. And don't forget, we are where we are because it's the white man who gave us the education and some. The white man is not going to show you exactly what you should do to come out of your mess, because while you are in your mess, you have all these raw materials that you can come and carry away. They have to still come and do things for you. So you must be the one with an entrepreneurial mind who writes the document. How am I going to, in 2035, what am I going to be in 2035? What is expected of me? What are those things that show that I have emerged? To emerge, what is there? What are the indicators? And to help all of us understand what emergence is, let us take a very rich country like Saudi Arabia. If we go to Saudi Arabia today, we would say that they have emerged. Watch my fingers. We would say that they have emerged. They have very beautiful roads, very beautiful cars, very beautiful houses, electricity all the time, and what have you. But technically, when you are talking about emergence, emergence is not tied just to the physical structures you're seeing or the environment you are seeing. Emergence is tied to a people, to the mindset of a people. So you cannot come to Cameroon. Let's say those of us Cameroonians, we just continue and fold our arms now. And if President Paul Biya had so much money, he can go and pay the Chinese and the Germans and the Americans. They will come and build auto roads for us, going from north to south with planes flying all over the whole place with the best hospitals. Yet, if those changes are not caused by the Cameroonian youth, even though you will see those externalities, we would have failed. So watch my lips again. Come 2035, let us say that we have the best road now, like the one they're constructing coming from Yaoundé to Douala. We have the best airports. We have planes all over the whole place. We have the best health system, and they have built a house for every Cameroonian to live in with air conditioning. And we have imported food so that everybody has 5 sacks of Chinese rice in their house with enough to eat all day and go to the latrine. And we have enough wine to drink. You have the best of lives, but this is the catch. If all these things I'm not describing are not put in place by the Cameroonian youth, we would have failed. Because when that source stops, the whole thing would crash. The whole thing would crash. So Saudi Arabia is probably emerged, but most of those things are built by Germans, are built by Indians, are built by Americans. So in reality, to say that Saudi Arabia has emerged, you would have to show proof of the fact that it was built by Saudi Arabians. I hope I've made myself clear.
Okay, Professor Mark Anthony, there is a problem. What is the problem with our universities?
We have been pounding on that particular issue.
But what actually is the problem?
The basic problem.
Is it the quality of the trainers? Is it the structure?
The trainers themselves have been trained with the same structure, like you mentioned. I will be straight in saying that the structure of our educational system is one of the basic problems that we have. And if we want to look at trainers, I don't want to look at trainers because trainers are what they are because of the same structure which they receive. Even those who have been trained out, because let me say this, education everywhere in the world, the schooling everywhere in the world is almost the same, in the sense that it is a scam. Let me put it like that in quotes. It does not train the real thing. The structure is not there put to focus on the main thing. It focuses on the effects instead of focusing on the source, or say the root issue. As long as the focus is not on the root, is on effects, it will keep producing the same problems everywhere, every time. If you want to look around the world today, Mr. Leo, those who are wealthy out there, who are actually great out there, are not people who went through our universities. Yes.
Is there a problem with our universities?
Yes, there is a very big problem
with our universities.
Very big.
What do I say? Going to university is good.
It's good.
But don't be limited to that. And then we need to put a lot in the university, which is something that we'll talk about when you give me back the microphone.
Yeah. So you see, the problem, Mr. Leo, when we talk, some people might be saying that we are struggling to discourage people from going to school. No. School, go to school, learn well. But we need to correct what is on the base of that education, because if it is not corrected, we will keep having the same thing every day, day in, day out. I mentioned that most of those whom you see out there very successful are not people who went through our universities. If we want to use my quote, Bill Gates father is what is a wealthy, he's not really that wealthy, but it's a medium class man, was a medium class man. You want to look at the mother, good, but, and all of them have gone to school. They were encouraging their son to go to school, but the young man dropped from the university second year. Not like he was going to any kind of school, Harvard University. He dropped. What about Mark Zuckerberg? Mark Zuckerberg didn't complete the university. When you look at these young men, they have become what they are. It's not because of the school. Let's come to Cameroon. When we go to the southwest, we have some great names. I was talking to Pamioli one time, and he told me he ended the school in standard 6. That was so powerful. But he is one of the richest men in the southwest. When you come to Cameroon, you have had names like the Foot Souls, you have this. You find out, did they go to school?
Yeah, but they are assisted.
I want to show something.
By persons who went to school.
That is the problem.
Yes.
Can I just land, please?
Yes.
That is the problem. Those who come to create these jobs, to employ those who went to the university, you quoted a book, why A students do work for C students. C students is not a grade.
Yes.
C actually is talking of those who are able to create jobs.
Who are imaginative.
Capacity building. People have what it takes to give. Okay, when you go looking at it, the A students are academicians.
Yes.
Those who go to school.
They are creative.
They end up working for those who have that creative ability to give what the society needs. But our educational system is not focused on that. And I said the main problem is because once education is not focused on raising or training you to know who you are, whether you go up and come down, you come out and have the same problem because it's not focused on you.
Okay.
When you know yourself, you can identify a problem in a society and you give a solution to it. And that's what we call taking advantage of opportunities and creating jobs. And that is what Cameroon needs at this hour. Okay. People who can identify problems, give solutions to it, and that solution become a job that many people will be seeking.
Okay, Dr. Nick,
yes.
Can we also say that to some extent universities are politicized? That is,
yes,
appointments are based
there's
on.
a lot of politics in our universities, and one indicator you will see you will see all these professors on television, praise singing over there, shouting and insulting this other person. They go from one place to the other, just praise singing over here and insulting these other ones, talking on social media and so on. And when they themselves are not very productive, and even some of them, they get the professorial thing just by appointment, man no man, all these kind of things and so on. And the bottom line is, most of them, if you were to take them out of the classroom and take them off the government payroll, will they survive? The answer is no. So while Mark was speaking, I had some of these things that came into my mind. I'm trying to remember exactly what I was going to say. I was paying so much attention that I forgot what I wanted to say.
No,
but
we were talking about the fact that some people, those who are wealthy in our society, are not those who have gone to the school to the highest level. Yeah.
Yes, let me just say something. We are not here to say that people should not go to school. We are not here to say that you should not go to university. We are saying that the current university and the school system, though we go to it, there is something that is supposed to be injected in us that is not being injected. That's exactly what we are saying. So we are saying, let us go to school. Let us go right to university. But the injections we are getting should be the right injections. That's what we are saying. You are going to school, but instead of injecting you the drug, they are injecting water. So that's all we are saying. School is very good, and you have to be sharp enough to make the aeroplanes and make. There's no way you're going to make this phone if you didn't go to school. There's no way you can make this if you didn't go to school. So let us go to school, but let us know what we are giving our kids. That's all we are saying. They should be productive at the end of the day. And you asked about our university system, and we would say that, let us borrow a leaf from China. 40 years ago, the Chinese had a leader. It's not this current one. The Chinese had a leader who did something great for that nation. They had their university system was just like the one in Cameroon, and he saw that it was not productive. They were going and studying philosophy, studying this subject, chemistry, just studying subjects. That was not good enough. So he changed 70% of all their universities into polytechnics. But when you say polytechnics, you mean engineering and technology, STEM, and so on. And then they send many of those Chinese youths to go to the Western world and go to the schools in the Western world and learn technology, learn in their factories and steal technology and bring back to China. And then they put in policies there to encourage companies to come from America, Europe, and so on and install in China. And while they were making the things in China, they employed Chinese youths who were learning more. And that's why China is a world power today. So what are we going to do? If you look at the school system in our country, we have all gone to secondary school, or at least we have all gone to secondary school, let me put it that way. Look at the classes in secondary schools. You will see that when you come to a school, only 20% of the children in a Form 5, Form 4, whatever, are studying the sciences. 80% are studying the arts. That's where the problem begins. And how did it happen? It happened because the teachers who were teaching the sciences to the students, the way they delivered it, they made it look so difficult that many children just fall off. Or sometimes the way the subjects are delivered is too abstract. We need to build a school system where children, even from primary school and secondary school, are playing with things, and then they will begin to understand the principle. When you're coming to secondary, you are teaching them the principles behind what they are saying, and they will become hooked up. You see, today, not even today, in my days when I went to primary school, there was this thing called handwork, and that handwork, you had to do something with your hands and bring it to school, handwork. But when my children went to school, to the primary school, they didn't bring handwork. Either they took the 100 francs from me and bought a broom and brought to school, or they went and gave the 100 francs in school as handwork. You see, we are corrupting the children. You see, that is wrong. That is completely wrong. And therefore, now, when you look at the thing, most of the people who are in the administration, in everywhere in administration, they don't have a technological background. They all came from this background, and therefore you would see a child somewhere in Banso or somewhere who has tried and has generated electricity in a stream, and he's screaming there and doing something. Then the geo comes and the geo doesn't care. Nobody cares because it doesn't tick in their minds because they have never been part of that. But someone who has studied sciences will say, wow, this child. And if you were in a position of strength and you have done sciences, then you would do something about it. What am I saying? We have to correct our school systems. We have to make sure that 80% of our children are studying science, technology, and engineering, mathematics, all those things. And only 20% are studying the arts. We have to reverse it. We have to reverse our administration too. Now, something changed in the schools in the West. You know, when they train doctors in the West now, they don't just train you to become the doctor. I mean, medical doctors. While you are training as a medical doctor, which is what you went in for, before you graduate, you have to learn administration or some management of some sort or some epidemiology. You do something else that allows you to be able to control a system. Because if you just train only as a doctor and you're a surgeon, you have this tunnel vision. But when you are given the management skills and all those kind of things, it broadens your vision. Okay. Engineers should also be trained like that. That way, you don't need people from ENAM because there is a disconnect now. You train somebody in ENAM to manage, And then you train somebody elsewhere to be an engineer. When the engineer is talking, the man from Enam is showing him the power. He doesn't even seek to understand. But you need to not train the person in Enam, train by the engineers and give them the knowledge of management of people and businesses from Enam, and then you will see the nation will go forward.
The nation will go forward. We have just 30 minutes to go. Let's look briefly at the strike action announced by lecturers of our state universities. We hear that the minister might have started dishing out some money, but the question is, like I asked last time, why must we always wait for lecturers to go on strike before something is done?
Mr. Leo, that question to me is a question that goes to make us understand just what Dr. Nick was saying here, where you have graduates from Enam who are running the country, an institution where people are trained to come out and manage fellow Cameroonians as if they are slaves, so let me use the word, as if they are colonial masters. And there is a very, very big gap between those who are working in those universities and those who are managing them. You know, a teacher is supposed to be one of those persons whom is supposed to be really taken care of. Why? He is the person that trains your children. He is the person that looks after the lives of those whom you release into their hands in the universities.
Yes, but the allowance is not part of the salary.
No, I'm not refusing that. Is not it's research allowance. That's the reason why they are doing all what they are doing. So I think that they are supposed to be taken care of, and if something had been promised to them, it is supposed to be done in time. You should not wait when they say they want to go on strike before you come doing it. But that also brings me to a point where I'll say the only reason also, one of the reasons, let me not say the only reason, why you see a professor, university professor, actually pushing to go for strike because of token is almost what we're saying here. They are job oriented, and as long as they believe that they have been doing their job, they want that job you to pay. But if you are somebody who is focused in creating, because being a lecturer in a university or being a researcher does not stop you from creating jobs.
Are you saying that they should abandon their research allowances because they have to go create jobs elsewhere?
That is not what I said. I from the start I said people should not work and they are not given their money. But I'm saying that when you hear the word strike coming up, it is proof that there is an imbalance somewhere. Because it is not the strike that is going to change the situation. You can strike for as long as you want in Cameroon, and that will not change.
Okay.
The situation continues.
Okay, I want to link this research allowance to the previous topic, previous topic where we're looking at. I asked you a question whether our universities were reference centers talking about innovation research, the place of research. Can we say today that, what is the place of research and innovation in our universities today?
That's right. If you look at the great countries and great innovations, in industry, those things come from research in university centers. If you are looking at the technology that goes into the weaponry in America, in China, all that information comes from research laboratories in the universities. You know, going up to the moon, all those kind of things is from research. Okay, so it is about the type of research and the quality of research that matters.
Okay,
but if we have a problem in Cameroon, is because the type of research and the quality of research is not very helpful. That is the bottom line. You see, a few years ago, I was in my room and I wept a lot. I was in Bamenda, and the on a 1 p.m. news, national news, in French. This female journalist was reading how there was somebody who had defended a PhD thesis on les attributs d'un vet. Les attributs d'un vet. And there were some 3 professors who were at the jury, and the gentleman passed with flying colors. Now, it made me laugh and cry at the same time. What is an attribute d'un vet? That is, he had a PhD on the attributes of vet. Vet is, you know that this thing that these people of the south, they play, that is the vet. So he spent all his time learning the attributes of vet, and he got a PhD for that. And after that, he will seek for employment, and he'll be going around on TV stations making noise. Now, that is the problem. It's about the quality of research. Now, when you ask about the university teachers, let me make an illustration here. They are all trained in the same system. What do I mean? Suppose we are 50 of us in the house, and we want to eat Ashu, and the water is brought for us in a bowl. And, you know, Mark, you start to wash your hands in the bowl. It's not like somebody is pouring water. So no, you're washing in the bowl. Everybody washes in that bowl, and then it is that bowl, you know. So that is what has happened. We keep churning the same water, and everybody is swimming in the same water, and nothing is changing. And what exactly do we need for things to change? We need, first of all, to step out of that cocoon, of that environment, and say, hey, university systems, let's stop everything. Let's just freeze everything, and do what we call monitoring and evaluation. We have to do monitoring and evaluation. We have to carry research on the university. What is it that you are teaching the children? How useful it is? Is it the children that have left before? What are their difficulties? What are the blessings that they left this place with? How good are they? Then we will ask the professors themselves. Professor, what have you been teaching for 50 years, professor? If we didn't give you a teaching job, how else can you survive, professor? Yes, how else would you survive, professor? And so if you are a professor teaching something and you cannot survive otherwise, and then you are teaching 1,000 children the same thing, then you are teaching them things that will not help them to survive, because you as the professor, you must be able to survive. Yes, besides teaching, if the teaching job were taken away from you so that you don't teach that thing, professor, how will you survive? If you tell me you cannot survive, then what you are telling me is that we should cancel that program, we should cancel that faculty. That's exactly what we need to do. And just like we are saying, we are washing our hands in the same bowl, and therefore we cannot correct ourselves. We need to do this evaluation and then step out of Cameroon and go to India, South Korea, or this place, and import teachers of technology from there to come and cross-pollinate ourselves, to upgrade ourselves. You know, we need to upgrade everybody, and then make sure that our secondary schools, our high schools, our universities, and so on have all the laboratories running. And besides, this thing that we call technical school and grammar school, they should be fused. There should not be anything like technical school or grammar school. There should be comprehensive colleges where you teach the children the technology, the everything, the agriculture, the everything, and then they grow from there. And what was the other thing that I was going to say? It's very, very important that we do these things and follow what the Chinese have done and keep an eye on them. Okay. Otherwise, we'll go nowhere.
Greetings to everyone. I'm Benjamin, watching from the United Arab Emirates. This is a really a topic to handle for many, to learn, mostly the youths and the government, those responsible for making decisions regarding our educational system. Honestly speaking, educating yourself on the education system of our country is just problematic. I happen to find myself in country abroad where I can't show myself in a job market due to the fact that my country educational system doesn't provide. Okay. Excuse me. Good evening, Mr. Kum. The reason government does not respect the university is because students in Faculty of Engineering cannot even assemble a car. The mechanical engineer who have not acquired formal education are better than students from the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering. because they have the practical skills. Our students have the theory, which can't solve a problem. Even a lecturer can't allow his students to touch his car engine. Emmanuel is is writing from Boya. Cameroon government is a mistake to brilliant student. Okay, it's a mistake. Brilliant student goes to general education, then dull ones to technical education. Massa Henry is writing from Kumba. Good evening. Oops. Yeah. Must every body be given this research allowance in our universities?
The question is, what is the research that they have done? That's the first question we should be able to ask, because after having done research,
they have to do research to upgrade their knowledge now on what is happening to
No, we should see the proofs in the lives of the students as well as in our community. I started this program by mentioning the head of a research ministry who says we should go and look for fibang grass.
Yeah.
Okay, that you start asking questions. Are these the people who are actually leading us and who are leading research in the country? You start feeling like we are heading towards destruction. Mr. Leo,
we cannot be
I am not I am not condemning in totality the research of most of those who have been working, because some of them are listening to us. We do research together. Listen, there is a problem with our system, and we keep on doing copy and paste and calling it research. Because research is supposed to be not only to improve your knowledge, but to improve the community. And so when you improve your knowledge, let it reflect on the community. But you can't say you have been researching, then you are willing to go on strike, at the same time proving that your research is not effective in a society. It is obsolete to the environment in which you find yourself, because it's supposed to provide for you even if they don't give you something.
The research are supposed to be sellable.
Yes, it must be usable, and you can only sell something that is usable. It's sellable when it's usable. If it's not sellable, it's not usable. Okay, and I was going to something that came into my mind. When you go and study about education in Finland, you would realize something. The best students, those students who are in the university and have first degrees or masters or PhD, it is the best students that are employed as teachers in primary school and secondary school. It's the best. But while in Cameroon, our best are not in the schools. It is the best who have studied and know how to transmit the knowledge. They understand it very well, and they come into a school setting and then can groom the other children and lay a good platform for them to carry on. So if you are going to take teachers who are not very good in mathematics and then ask them to teach in our primary schools, they will never lay a solid foundation for arithmetic for the kids.
That is right.
And that is it. So we need to have our best students teaching. Our best students should be given the opportunity to teach. And in those countries, the teachers have got a pride of place. It's not like here where our own teachers will send them to the background. No, the teachers have got a pride of place. Everybody respects them because they are the top. Okay. They are the best. And the other thing, what was I going to say? Take our own children here. How can you have a master's in physics and you cannot wire a house? It doesn't make sense. You see this, by wiring a house, there is no reason that you have a master's in physics and you are unable to wire a house. That should not be.
Okay. Masters. Good evening, sir. Our educational system is not at the best. I agree with what Dr. Nick is saying. They have to restructure the system again. Grace is writing from Boya. Good evening once more, Mr. Liu. Kamilif, writing from Kumbo, I grew up learning some knowledge from my grandmom how palm wine was discovered. They don't even teach what is supposed to be taught. The system is really not okay. Everything is political. Mr. Liu, the reason why government cares less about a research allowance is because they know the lecturers are not going to solve a problem. Emmanuel is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Tagen Donatien from Yaoundé? Our system of education is not the best. We just need to rehabilitate the system. Mo writing from Yaoundé says, good evening, Mr. Liu. How can Dr. Nick say all schools should be fused together? That is wrong. Only humble opinion. I rather specialize separately and effectively. Okay. This one says, John writing from Tarikon. Why must the government allow boys to pick up guns before creating them job in the DDR? Thus, lecturers must go on strike before allowances are paid. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Keep up with this program. I learn a lot each time I watch your program. Great job to you all in the studio. Please, can you help me with the number of the ladies that talk about the cancer program? Which to attend it tomorrow is Glory Ngala, writing from Douala. God bless you all. Glory, just write to me after this program, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm particularly touched with this topic today because of a long time I have been pondering on whether to send my children to school. No, you have to send them to school. My opinion is that what our universities are doing is recycling. Imagine a professor has been there since I was born. Okay, we have to go to school. If we did not go to school, I'm not sure we'll be talking on TV now. Hello, Mr. Liu. I love your programs and the panelists. My name is Ngu Franklin from Bamenda. I will have love Apostle Ambe Valentine to be one of the panelists in your topic today. Our problem is not at the university level. It is from the basic level, and it won't change because school is a distraction from the real education we need. The best is found in us and not in schools. My definition of education is the bringing out of individual abilities, and schools can't offer us that. Good evening, sir. Okay, Mr. Liu. Oops. Good evening to you all. The topic today is very educative. I have more than 10 ideas of problem solving and which will empower many. But when you table the proposal, the authorities that be don't even listen or direct you to pass through unnecessary bureaucratic procedures which are uncalled for. What should we do then, sir? Writing from Douala, Bertrand Egio. Good evening to you, Bertrand Berta from Mutengene. Good evening. I like the program. Please tell Dr. Nick that I'm feeling him. God bless my media prime. Thank you very much. This one says, sir, thanks very much for your feedback. But the problem is not the universities. The problem is we don't have where to apply our little knowledge and that we acquire from the universities. Plus, we don't have to finance. How can startups or entrepreneurs survive without? Okay. Thank you very much. This one says, I hail you all. Dr. Nick once said our school's curriculum should be bundled and burned and go in for a complete developmental and productive programs in our schools from nurseries to the universities. And Jungwa Festus writing from Kumba. Good evening. What a wonderful program. Those that do tar routes in our country from China are mostly from SAR SM. The 2 years course, I have worked with them. We should trust our own trained personnel in Cameroon. I see a doctor on the panel and he is taking care of patients. Can he not also take care of the minister in the same sickness? Atem is writing from Suza. Good evening to you, Atem. Good evening to you all in the studio. It is very interesting topic there. I have had a big worry with the training and integration of graduates from the faculties of medicine in Cameroon after 7 years of tedious training and acquisition of clinical skills. They are told that integration is through another concours organized by the Ministry of Public Service with the number of spaces very limited. Isn't that another policy to discourage graduates and consequently sending them out for greener pastures? For writing from Yaoundé. Mr. Liu, thanks for this program. I just wish some of our decision makers are following you. 14 years might not be far from now, but we can make things right if our leaders make the decisions to make practical work in schools 80% and 20% theory. Okay, Mr. Leo, good evening. Once more, when is the rebroadcast of this program? Thanks. Elvis is writing from Kumba. The rebroadcast is 1 o'clock. Of this program is going to be 1 o'clock on Monday. Now, what is the essence of this, the allowance? Doctor, we should really understand this.
Yes, but before I answer that, from the questions that were raised from there, I retained 4 things. I just want to give quick answers to them because we're here. We're in a learning process. Somebody asked about. I said school should be fused. The person is asking why. And then the other one is best. Somebody said he has about 10 best ideas, and he goes and nobody attends to him. And then the other one who says we do not have where to apply. And then the G, doctors are trained and they have to write an exam again for employment. A quick one. This is it. You know, we have been brought up in a country where the child leaves from class 7, and you have to take the child to a grammar school or to a technical college. And the impression has been given that it is the child who is dull that has to go to a technical college, and the one who is smart goes to a grammar school. That's already a problem we have created there. But in reality, if you read that book written by Robert Kiyosaki, Why A Students Work for C Students and B Students Work for Government, there's a chapter in it in which he describes the different abilities in children, and there are eight kind of intelligences that we all have, and you don't have all. And what we are giving our children in a school system, especially the grammar, we are teaching them based on the logical mathematical intelligence, and it's just head knowledge and so on. And Robert Kiyosaki explains, and that kind of teaching doesn't bring out the best from the children. So you would have a child who is very creative, but the way you are teaching that child does not bring out that creativity, which is what Mark was saying. Now, when you put all these children together, those that had supposed to have gone to technical college, and so, because even in technical college you are still supposed to learn English and French and so on, of course, to fit. So put all these children together, let them dance together, let them learn together, and then as they are exposed to the different things, and especially if you have labs and so on, then they begin to pick up the different skills and mature in them. So it's important that you bring the sheep and the goats together, and then as they grow through the secondary school, then they can sort out themselves. You know that when we put our children in the so-called grammar schools, because of the way they are being taught, by the time they are going to Form 3, some sort out themselves as science students and some sort out themselves as art students. So it's the same thing. Put all these children together. At the end of the day, because they're in this kind of a special school, they are not going to sort out themselves as art students. Actually, there will be nothing like art students. There will be nothing like science students. They will be sorting out themselves based on their capacities, so that even if you are an art student, you might be majoring in theater arts. You might be doing something that is professional. At the end of the day, it's a setting that gives children this professional approach, so that they can be productive at the end of the day. That's what we are saying. Then the gentleman who talked about the 10 ideas is very good. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. You teach yourself to see problems and you look at ways and means of solving them. What I want to tell him is that he has not learned all the facets of entrepreneurship. It does not mean that every youth in Cameroon who has an idea should go to government. No. When you have an idea, pick out the best, develop it, and grow it into a business. Be self-employed or something. Start it yourself. Then you might not have money, but start small and grow. Borrow money from, save your own money. Do something. Borrow money from your family. Do something and start. Stop running around and blaming people for not giving you money. It will never work. If that's the approach you are going to use, you are never going to come out of your ditch. Then the other person was saying that they train in the universities and don't have a place to practice. It's probably true. But the bottom line again is the training we have in the university is limited. And it is only if we had been training our own people to come out and open the industries. Then there will be that large base of industries where the children can go to. So the person is raising a good point there, and we need to create the opportunity to have more industries in Cameroon. What am I saying? All our youth in the diaspora, we should make taxation through the ports relatively free, so that they bring in industries through the ports free and set up industries everywhere, so that children can come to this thing. So if you do in such a way that you set up an industry and many children are practicing there for about 10 years, you pay no taxes. We have to create that enabling environment. It's very, very important. Okay. And then this last one about the training of doctors. If you have trained as a doctor very well, you should not be afraid of any exam, because even if you live as a doctor here or anywhere and you are going to America, you must write the same exams.
Good evening, Mr. Leonard, and to the panelists on board. Mr. Leonard, France is a problem for our beloved country. The British had an excellent vision for the Southern Cameroons. They brought in City and Guilds Institution, which was to train and develop engineers. Cameroon government dismantled the City and Guilds Institute, and that the directive of France, Lycée Technique, was born. That was the downfall of Cameroon engineers. As long as France is to oversee, is the overseer of Cameroon, nothing good. Okay, Raymond is writing from the United Arab Emirates. We shouldn't be calling names of billionaires that they dropped out, or rather we should be growing the minds of our children that they can be billionaires too. We can all make the world a better place, but first we have to believe we can. I think the universities should be focused more on the job training methods, like more of internships, giving practical assignments than off the job, like sitting and learning theory in class. Okay, you're writing there from Sebastian is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Sebastian. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Vela from Bafang. The world has changed, but the educational system has not changed. It concentrates on creating graduates to work for money and not money work for them. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Will this talking bring change? We have been talking for years, but no solution. Doctor, we need action after talking, not theory without practicals. David is writing from Yaoundé. I'm sure doctor is a very practical doctor. Has created employment for many persons. He runs institutions, and that is what he's asking you to do out there. I'm sure if we had 1,000 doctors, persons doing what he's doing in Cameroon, would definitely not be the same. But now, this research, what is the research all about?
It depends on the field.
Because people are just talking about...
You know, it depends on the field.
I struggle to get some lecturers to come and explain.
They didn't come.
Yes.
The research depends on the field of work in which you find yourself, and also based on the students which they are actually working with. For example, the research students, the PhD fellows who are there with them right now, some of them are working and they are supervising to see them go through their research work. It is not a job that you should not be paid for. You have to be paid for supervising that the fellows to research. And also most of them have, I think, research works that they are doing in relation to the national, for the country, let me put it like that. You can't be doing that research and then you are not being paid for. You can't be building up those young fellows who are working to become doctors tomorrow and you are not being paid for. Mm-hmm. So it is something that they should be paid for. But like we said earlier, Mr. Liu, it is not, most of the times, most of what we call research is just copy and paste. Then we do some light corrections on it and we say, okay, this is what we have been able to come up with. But it has no direct impact. That's why that's from the point where I spoke from.
Okay.
When it comes to looking at research, it has to do with the work that they are doing with those students and
okay.
the nation.
We are going to be continuing looking at our system of education. I'm sure next week we'll do another edition on this same topic. But today we have to end here because we are out of time. Dr. Nick Ngwamyam, thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. We hope that we've come out with something to help us to change our paths. we are talking to parents, we are talking to students. Even if the government doesn't change, know what is right and look for what is right.
Okay, thank you too, Professor Mark.
Thank you, Leo, for the opportunity to actually sit on this platform and talk to Cameroonians, and not only Cameroonians but to Africans. It is something that we should encourage many to do. People like you can actually, they are the ones we should call true nation builders. Thank you for the great job you are doing.
Okay, we want to thank you all who took time off to follow the program this evening. We also want to thank the production team. To you, Desmond, thank you very much, Christian, and Noel, and Bertrand. Eli is bereaved. The elder brother is one of the military guys who fell in Momo Division. So Eli is, I'm sure they should be in the southwest region today. And tomorrow they'll be leaving, tomorrow or Sunday they'll be leaving to Mbonge. So our heart out there with you, Eli, our sincere condolences. And also we wish you a wonderful weekend. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.